When, where, and how? Emergence of a new era. The medieval period in India covers the period from 700 AD to about 1750 AD. This long period of about 1100 years can be divided into two phases. The early medieval period, 8th to 13th century, and the later medieval period, 13th to 18th century. In the early medieval period, we find that there was a constant power struggle among the regional kingdoms of North and South India, characterized by the frequent rise and fall of kingdoms. The Palas, Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, Cholas, and the Rajputs were the powerful dynasties that ruled in different parts of India. Along with this, the Turkish invasions of India began in 1000 AD. Ultimately, the Turks established their kingdom called the Delhi Sultanate. This sultanate flourished between 1200 AD and 1526 AD and witnessed the reigns of Turks, Khaljis, Tughlaqs, and Lodhis. The Delhi Sultans were overthrown by the Mughals in the 16th century. With the arrival of these Muslim rulers, a new religion, Islam, and new languages, Arabic and Persian, came to India. The new culture that evolved in India came to be known as Indo-Islamic culture. The advent of Muslims brought new types of food such as biryani, korma, pulao, and firni, etc. Grapes, tobacco, chilies were also introduced during this period. Towards the end of the 15th century, European traders began trading with India.
The first to arrive were the Portuguese. They were followed by the English, the Dutch, and the French. By the mid-18th century, the English managed to oust the other European trading powers and started the process of conquering and colonizing India.
Impact of geography on Indian history. The geography of a country influences its history to a great extent. Here, we find some fascinating examples of how historical forces are shaped by geography. Ports such as Surat, Masulipatam, Cambay, and Cochin became major centers of internal and foreign trade. The mountains in North India, especially in Rajasthan, led to the building of massive and strong forts in Chittorgarh, Jodhpur, and Jaisalmer, which could not be easily breached by the enemy. The water scarcity in Gujarat and Rajasthan led to the creation of Baolis for storing water, which are recognized today as unique examples of water conservation. During the medieval period, wars were fought frequently to control the important territory between the rivers, the Ganga and the Yamuna, and the Godavari and the Tungabhadra. India, new and old terminology. From the beginning of the medieval period, India has been known by different names from Aryavarta to Hindustan. India got its name Hindustan because of the people living around the Indus River. It is derived from a Persian word which means the same as Sindhu in Sanskrit. Hind indicates the Indian subcontinent in Persian and Arabic. When the term Hindustan was used in the 13th century by the chronicler Minhaj-us-Siraj, he meant the areas of Punjab, Haryana, and the land between the Ganga and the Yamuna, as this land was ruled by Delhi Sultans. South India was not a part of this term. When Babur used the term Hindustan, he used it in a broader sense to include the geographical and cultural characteristics of the entire Indian subcontinent. At that time, this term did not have any political meaning as it has today. India is often referred to as Bharat in the Sanskrit literature. India is also known as Bharatvarsham. Source of information. Historical sources are classified into two broad categories: literary and archaeological sources. The literary sources of medieval India can be divided into indigenous or writings by the Indians and foreign accounts. Apart from these, we have coins, inscriptions, and architecture. Manuscripts were a very important source of information for this period, which stretches from 700 to 1750. But one problem with manuscripts is that since they were copied by hand, changes in words and sentences were brought in by scribes who copied these manuscripts.
Thus, new words, sentences changed the meanings of the original manuscript. This is especially true when we study a manuscript from the historical point of view.
Literary sources, accounts of Indian writers. In the medieval period, we had all kinds of writing by contemporary writers like Babur's Baburnama and Jahangir's Jahangirnama, fascinating biographies giving first-hand accounts of their lives and times. The other very important literary sources of this period are the accounts by court historians who were appointed by rulers to record the events of their rule. Some of the major accounts of this period are Abul Fazl's Akbarnama and Aine Akbari, and an account of Delhi Sultanate by Ziauddin Barani titled Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi, and Tughlaq-Nama by Amir Khusro. Another type of literary source is accounts written by scholars about the kingdoms in which they lived. Such books were called court chronicles.
Raj Tarangini by Kalhan is an example of a perfect court chronicle.
This book gives a detailed account of the history of Kashmir. Chand Bardai's Prithviraj Raso gives us an account of the rule of Prithviraj Chauhan. Many other writings by Indian writers like Firdausi's Shahnama, Inayat Khan's Shahjahanama, Minaj-us-Siraj's
Tabaqat-e-Nasiri
are important examples of literary accounts of this period. Besides accounts of writers, other literary sources include the religious literature like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, written in regional languages, secular literature written in various Indian regional languages. These sources tell us about the life and values of the people who lived at that time. The archival records containing the governmental documents, royal orders, treaties, court records, etc. are also an important source of information. These include the farmans sent by rulers. Foreign accounts. Foreign accounts are an invaluable source of information about the medieval period because the foreign travelers and scholars who visited India wrote candidly and honestly about what they saw and experienced in India. Some important foreign accounts are Al-Baruni's Tahqiq-e-Hind, Ibn Battuta's Rihla, accounts by Al-Masudi, Niccolo Conti, Sir Thomas Roe, Francois Bernier, Domingo Pay, and Marco Polo, etc. Niccolo Conti has given a detailed description of the Vijayanagar kingdom and the capital city of Hampi. Apart from these, we have a lot of writings by Bhakti and Sufi saints and in regional languages like Bengali, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Tamil, Malayalam, etc. Archaeological sources.
There are plenty of archaeological sources like monuments, paintings, sculptures, inscriptions, coins, weapons, clothes, ornaments, tools, utensils, etc. belonging of the medieval period.
The following are some of the examples of archaeological sources. Any building of historical significance is considered to be a monument.
Forts, palaces, temples, houses, and other structures give us a lot of information about the architectural skills, perfection in stone cutting, art of sculptors, and brilliance of artists, culture, society, and lifestyle of the people.
The coins were made of gold, silver, and copper. They are analyzed and studied to get historical information. The study of coins is called numismatics. The person who studies these coins or numismatics gets a lot of information about the political, economic, and cultural life. The Delhi Sultans, the Mughals, and the Cholas issued many coins. The paintings of the medieval period, such as Mughal, Rajasthani, miniature, and Deccani, also give us an interesting insight into palace scenes, hunting expeditions, and scenes from mythology. By studying them, we get to know about the customs, traditions, costumes, jewelry, etc. of the medieval period. Sculptures of the medieval period were mainly statues of gods, kings, and queens. They were generally made of bronze and stone. They gave us information about the hairstyle, costumes, and ornaments of the medieval period. Inscriptions are written records generally dealing with royal orders or information about donations to temples and villages. Some of those are related to the achievements of kings. They were engraved on rocks, stones, copper plates, or temple walls. The study of inscriptions is a scientific process and is called epigraphy. These inscriptions give us interesting information about the social, political, and economic condition of the people of India in the medieval period. The role of historians. The historians have to analyze all the sources while writing their account. A historian's chief responsibility is to examine and interpret all the sources and write an unbiased and systematic historical account. A period of varied developments. The period between 700 and 1750 AD is very dynamic period because a rich variety of development took place during this period. New groups of people appeared in India during this period. Among them were Turks, Khaljis, Tughlaqs, Mughals, and Persians who came from outside. The Rajputs, Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, and the Ahoms were indigenous people and became politically important in this period. There were new developments in other areas also. New food items like potatoes, corn, and chilies arrived in the Indian subcontinent. The society became more complex as four major castes or varnas got divided and subdivided into a number of jatis or subcastes. Powerful empires like the Khaljis, Tughlaqs, Mughals, and the Cholas came up during this period.
Important changes took place in religion. There was the emergence of Bhakti movement, which believed that God can be reached through love and devotion.
No expensive or complicated rituals were needed. The Bhakti movement also rejected caste hierarchy. A new religion, Islam, arrived in India in the 7th century. The new religion based itself on the worship of one God, Allah, before whom all are equal, irrespective of social and economic differences. The history of this dynamic and ever-changing period is often described as medieval. The long stretch of years from 700 to 1750 AD saw tremendous changes.
What happened in the 16th and 17th centuries was very different from the developments of the 8th or 9th century. Therefore, many historians today wonder whether it is justified to label the entire period as medieval.